Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and Unauthorized TV. So first of all, thanks to all the bears who came in strong and put Owen over the symbolically significant 3,000 Feed the Bear subscription level on Unauthorized TV. Very pleased to see how that is still rolling along. Sadly, we have yet to hear from Taco Bell, so this remains the Darkstream, unsponsored, unauthorized, but there. Tonight we're going to talk about something that you all know on some level, but something that they are making ever more clear every day. Hollywood wants you dead. Now that may sound exaggerated. That may sound like hyperbole, but it is not. Hollywood literally wants you dead. They hate you. They hate your faith. They hate your nation. And a lot of it is for reasons that you would probably find difficult to believe if you ever had the opportunity to have somebody sit down and explain it to you. There is a level of it's basically like, it's very akin to the way that gamma males hate jocks and hate alphas and hate pretty blonde girls. It's just they have a tendency to overreact the other way, because it's very difficult for people who consider themselves to be superior in some regard. Look at Dennis Prager. Okay, Dennis Prager is a ugly fat man. Some Western civilization, because they didn't build it. That's why Hollywood hates it so much. Hollywood hates America, and Hollywood hates the West. They also, this is something it was interesting because I was talking to an Israeli friend of mine, and it was very helpful because we were talking about I was talking about Western civilization and the hatred of people like Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager and Hollywood in general for Western civilization. And I said, is their hatred of Christianity just that great? And he said, well, he said, it's not just, he said, I don't mean to minimize the significance of the hatred of Christianity. And this particular guy, he's a religious Israeli, but he doesn't hate Christianity. He doesn't hate Western civilization. He's a proud Israeli. And so he said, I think you're forgetting that we hate the Romans and the Greeks too. He said, in fact, we've hated the Romans and the Greeks longer than we've hated Christians. And so he said the fact that Western civilization is based on the Greco-Roman philosophical and legal legacy is just one more thing to hate about it. It's significant. And so Hollywood is the expression of that hatred for Western civilization. It's the expression of the hatred for politics, for the beautiful, the good, and the true. Hollywood exists to subvert and destroy everything that is beautiful, everything that is good, and everything that is true. I mean, you know that. All you have to do is watch a movie and see it. You know, it's they're constantly elevating that which is grotesque. They're constantly elevating that which is evil. And people say, "Oh, well, this movie, The Hunt, it's okay because in the end, the MAGA people turn it around." That's like saying that the purpose of Hollywood slasher movies is to prove that young girls going camping in their underwear can defeat serial killers. That is so missing the point. Absolutely missing the point. The point is the sadistic joy that they take in seeing their evil, sadistic imaginations play out in front of them. I mean, like Owen says, it's about establishing false memories. It's about creating the delusion. Yeah. Macrolens says it would be like saying concentration camps are okay as long as people get rescued from them in the end. It's Last Roman says football players and cheerleaders are always the targets in those films. Absolutely, because those are the people that gammas hate. The kind of people. Look at the kind of people that write these films. And I'm not talking about ethnicity or religion here. I'm just saying, look at the actual faces of the people who write these films. Do these look like people who were successful with the opposite sex at any point in their lives until they had influence and power and could offer something for it? It's insane when you look at how all of these films are just high school revenge flicks. I mean, even when the movie has nothing to do with high school, it's still all about high school revenge. And so, I do think that the studios will fall apart because I think that there's so much money laundering and sex trafficking and God knows what else taking place under the cover of those financial shenanigans. It's going to fall apart. There's a saying in the investment world when they talk about how when everything looks great when the credit bubble is going, but when the tide goes out, then you see who's naked. So the financial world surrounding entertainment is changing. And so the tide is going out. And so you're going to see a lot of entertainment-related nakedness and entertainment-related ugliness being revealed. Netflix is not looking very good. You can only play financial games so long before the whole pyramid scheme collapses. And it doesn't matter what the pyramid scheme is. And you look at the current movies being made, they're awful. The comedies aren't funny. The dramas aren't dramatic. It's all about repeats and remakes. My mask logo is a Venetian mask. I mean, it's a custom one. Brought to me from Venice by a Venetian, actually. And so the thing is that we have to, don't they have virtually endless money? No. They have debt. They have lots and lots of debt. And so it's all going to collapse sooner or later. And so that's why we're beginning to make our own stuff. We are going to make movies that are genuinely funny, that celebrate the noble virtues, that actually provide genuine drama, that features evil, that believes it's good, that isn't cardboard. It's just one step at a time, and we will get there, and we're not going to be the only ones who will get there. Let's do. This is good. By the way, this is going to be a fairly short Darkstream, just because I didn't charge up my battery. But we'll see how long it lasts. It always seems to last a little bit longer, but when the screen finally just goes blank, I will let you know, and then we'll close it. But yeah, somebody said, look at the Lord of the Rings. The total inability of Hollywood to create can be seen in the way that the new dialogue in the Lord of the Rings follows right after Tolkien's dialogue. And the difference is painful. I loved Lord of the Rings. I was so excited to see Lord of the Rings, and initially I was so happy just to be able to see this, very convincing and fairly true to the book's portrayal of Middle Earth, that a lot of the flaws escaped me. I actually went and saw the first two movies on the very first night they came out, very first showing. And, my wife was the one who first noticed that. I said, oh, isn't it great done? She's like, she said, there's too much messing around with Tolkien stuff. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Tolkien didn't explain everything, they were just showing the battles. And she's like, And so I watched it again. I was like, damn it, she's right. All the lame modern dialogue, you have these amazing speeches like, Gandalf reassuring Pippin at Gondor and so forth. And, just this amazing Tolkien-esque dialogue, or not Tolkien-esque, actual Tolkien dialogue. And then you have horrible jokes about dwarf tossing. It was just painful. Stogie says, come on, man, Lord of the Rings was badass for a Hollywood adaptation. It was pretty good. Probably because Peter Jackson was not a big enough figure in Hollywood that he actually decided to try to do a halfway reasonable job. The Hobbit demonstrated what Hollywood does when it just decides to pursue its own interests. I watched the first one, and I didn't bother watching the next two. I did kind of like the Hobbit cartoons, actually, the old ones. Yeah, and the Amazon's Lord of the Rings thing is going to be a complete train wreck. No question. Friendly Neighborhood Fox says, can we get a children's movie about a brave little fox that goes out into the wood world to save the forest? No. You know why? Because foxes killed some of our chickens. So we don't like foxes very much. We get foxes all the time because we have a plum tree in the backyard. And so when the plums fall on the ground, the foxes come around 4:30 and eat the plums, which is fine. And then they go and stare at the chickens. And so the rooster always lets us know. And then of course, we've got these big dogs that are perfectly capable of running them down and killing them. So we have to go out and chase them off before the dogs come out, because we don't want the dogs possibly chasing the foxes into somewhere dangerous. We don't actually want the dogs to kill the foxes, and we don't want the foxes, which have been known to have some not very nice diseases, to transmit them to the dogs. And so it's just this whole thing. But anyhow, Breathing Bear said, just now got a notification. This is why you should sign up to be a channel member. $2 a month, you get notifications directly from me every time that I remember, which is usually. And so anyhow, that's just, if you're having a problem with notifications, I would recommend that. Vagrant Theta says, stream cut in and out starting off. You didn't say the H word, did you? No, it's just, I did say Hollywood. Maybe that's a problem. Yeah, we don't need Irish Wolfhounds. We've got Ridgebacks and Vizslas. So, friendly neighborhood foxes. That is very kind and foxinitarian of you. I don't have diseases. I'm glad to hear it. We are all for, I think we can all agree that we're all for disease-free foxes. So let's do some super chats before the battery runs out. Let's see. Jack Cool says, how has it happened that the military intel are the good guys and the civilians are Satandom's forces? Hey, this is not the first time. I mean, the military under Spain was the good guys. Just so you understand, Franco was the good guy in Spain. The Republicans, who were civilians, were definitely Satandom's forces. So it's not the first time. For all that we were taught to fear military juntas and military coups, most of the time they are the better of two not very good options. In fact, they are usually much the better of the two options. Marie Golay says, when I am a smart but God punishes me straight away, is there a name for this curse? It's called hubris. The Greeks are familiar with it. She also says, feelings mutual, Hollywood, they are played out. They're not, they never had much creativity in the first place. They were just in a position to milk other more interesting and better mediums. Even the best Hollywood movies, like The Godfather, are not original. It's based on a book. So Hollywood as an entity and film as a medium has almost always been entirely derivative. It's a functionally non-creative medium. Marie says, why don't Muslims adopt black kids? Well, I assume because they have plenty of their own. So let's see here. Anyhow, the important thing to understand is that Hollywood is never ever going to like or respect you. There's a reason that they ban people like Owen, because Owen shows them up. Owen is capable of entertaining people by sitting in front of his computer in a meadow. He doesn't need all the lights and the cameras and all the mood setting to try to convince you that what this person is saying is actually funny, when, as we know, it generally isn't. Have you heard of people in Hollywood channeling scripts? Um, I don't think that that's. I haven't heard of it. I and I doubt it because if they were actually channeling scripts from new with it, that's what we're doing with Rebels Run. That's what Owen's going to do, committed by the so-called heroes of the movie, which again shows you the fundamental diseased nature of Hollywood. It's it's a it's not a surprise that there's all sorts of problems and psychological issues and drug addictions and perversions and you know because once you cut yourself off from the truth, you're lost, and you're left to try to find whatever scraps of life that you can somehow try to glom onto like a vampire. And there's no joy there. There's no love. It's just this vampire world of people all trying to prey on each other and take advantage of each other. Where will Hollywood's talent go once it falls apart? Well, there's always plenty of business for prostitutes. I'm sure they'll find employment somewhere, somehow. How do you think they got where in the position to do what they do? Is it the underground illegal stuff? Well, they got there first. You know, the stage has always been a morally questionable profession. And so there were always going to be morally questionable people involved in what is functionally an extension of the stage. In terms of how if you look at there was obviously a lot of corruption. There's a lot of mafia connections. I mean, you remember in The Godfather, the whole thing. And so, there's always been a lot of criminality and shady stuff going on around it, which is why there still is today. Thank you, Vox and BB. New unauthorized member. Excellent. Welcome aboard. Christopher McCall. Oh, we got that. Was De Gaulle a good man? I don't have an opinion on that. My instinct tells me no, but I do think that he did care first and foremost about France, which these days puts him ahead of about 95% of the national leaders not named Orban or Putin. William Late says the new Spider-Man movie's villain is a man who uses technology to fake disasters and cataclysmic events, with his last words being "People will believe anything." Yeah, see, they love to rub it in your face. That's how much contempt they have for you. They don't just hate you and want you dead. They also have a tremendous amount of contempt for you. Eli says, Vox, do you see us in a sense creating our own film industry that's separated from Hollywood? Yes. An indie movement becoming something bigger over time? Yes. They're not going to accept us. They're not going to let us play in their channels. Yep. I mean, we know that from Owen, right? Hang on. Um, we sometimes refer to him as Santo Matteo or Santo Salvini. I mean, that's how well loved he is. I mean, today yesterday or today, whatever it was, when Richard Gere was, doing the usual nonsensical Hollywood awareness thing, and was there's a boat of migrants that is not being allowed to dock in Italy, and Richard Gere, tried to do the whole, oh, but they should let them in and blah blah blah, and Salvini said, hey, you take them, you put them on your private jet, and you take them back to Hollywood with you. And he meant it too, and I can assure you, and I think any Italians who are watching this will testify that that was a very, very popular move. See, the Stoji, that's just stupid. Salvini isn't that great. Neither is Orban. They're all compromised, in my opinion. If all of our leaders, if the USA had a leader who was half as courageous and half as nationalist as either of those men, there might be some hope for the United States. There isn't, because there isn't a single leader on the state or national level who is half the man that Salvini and Orban are. Let's see. Yeah. Richard Gere is against that is another thing to hammer Gere on. Richard Gere is against the migration into Tibet by the Chinese, calls them invaders, not, but they're just new Tibetans. They're just new Tibetans, just as Tibetan as anyone who's been living there for, centuries. It's ridiculous. Let's see. What was the title of the book that will give me a better understanding of gammas? I would recommend reading SJW's Always Double Down. There's a whole chapter on gammas. Stoji says, I find their positions on Israel to be troubling. Who gives a damn? Israel is almost entirely irrelevant to most of Europe's problems. Not entirely, but mostly. And so, you have you have to pick your battles. If I had the choice between, I mean, seriously, think about it. Think about all the various leaders in the world. Who would be in your top five? Wouldn't both Orban and Salvini probably be in your top five out of the 170 plus national leaders in the world? I mean, okay, I'll admit to having a bit of a soft spot for Duterte, but he's such a loose cannon. Who knows what he's going to do? So why is Salvini so vocally pro-Israel? Probably because he doesn't want to pick a fight with them. Why? What sort of moron is already involved in a life or death struggle with both the EU and with the invasion of his country, and you think that he should get into another fight too, just so that you feel better about him? That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Does that make him compromised? Not. I mean, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but the point is, it doesn't matter. Are you just going to dream about your fantasy non-existent leader that would be good enough for you, who will never exist? I mean, come on. I got my doubts about Bolsonaro. Yeah, fair enough. Putin, Orban, Salvini, yeah. Z is potentially really good, although, you have to admire how how Trump is handling that. So, um, uh, isn't Duterte pretty left wing? Um, I have no idea what his actual politics are, but he's fought a pretty brutal war with communist separatists. So I don't know how left wing he is, and from an American perspective, um, he would be considered so far right wing that even I can't see him. I mean, you know, you have the whole like accusations about right wing death squads. Duterte actually turned the police into literal death squads, and just decided, well, we're going to fight the drug war, and they certainly have done so. Um, yeah. Anyhow, the point is that, um, you, and Owen has pointed this out, ironically enough, you need to stop obsessing about and bringing everything back to one small country in the Middle East. Yes, it has relative influence for its size, but it's not the be all and end all. And you know, um, and also sitting and whining about it is totally pointless. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about a specific industry that is dominated by a very small group of very evil people. And so, which, for whatever reason, too many of us continue to support because we're collectively too brain dead to do anything else. You know, all right, your band. Um, Duterte threatened war against Canada for leaving a few cargo containers of trash in his territory, and they backed down and removed him. The man is based. Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Duterte. That's why he's so amusing to cover or pay attention to, because you know he actually might have done it. Like any other leader in the world, they're like, we'll go to war with you because you left some cargo containers of trash in our country. Yeah, okay, maybe the Swiss, you'd take them seriously because they're pretty obsessive about trash. But other than that, like, what other leader would even say something like that, much less be serious about it? It just makes me laugh. Practically, I mean, anytime I see a story about the Philippines now, I will click on it and read it just to see what crazy thing he's done next or said next. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that he's anti-Christian. I mean, he's not, he's not someone who has like I said, he's comes off as crazy. There's not a lot of logos or reason, but um, chaotic evil is the best evil. Victor Apont throws in $1. Thank you. David Lorenzen says, since you and Space Bunny have ancestry in Ireland and Norway, why not renew your European nationality? Were those countries considered as your home? I don't talk about my family life or my nationalities or anything like that. So we're not going to discuss that. SP, what personality traits do women find attractive? Being tall, handsome, and successful. How does one check their gamma traits to the curb when pursuing a relationship? Um, stop trying to Stop trying to fake your way into things. The biggest mistake that gammas make is they try to sell their delusion. They try to sell their image of themselves. They're really bad at it. Let's see. What can we do to try and pull the USA back from the cliff edge as average people? Nothing. The USA is done. The USA has been done for, that I've noticed, for 15 years. So anyhow, I just got the battery warning, so we are going to close it out. Thank you for tuning in. I'll make sure that the battery's charged next time so we can go on for a full hour. Let's see. If you were involved in bouncing the rubble, check your email. There is some important news for you, and make sure that you go along with any requests or stuff that you get. So have a good evening. Look forward to seeing you the next time. This is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.